who's back. Yes, as promised, we are finally starting with season 2 of Morning Chai and Ikigai. I know it has been a long wait and I am guilty of procrastinating. But I hope you are all safe and sound, and I hope you're all doing okay, because I know that right now is a bit too much to expect in a world that is still not COVID free. But I really wish that this season of Morning Chai will prove to be a comfortable distraction for all of us, or maybe more than just a comfortable distraction. We live in hope, don't we? So fingers crossed to that. For the uninitiated, I am your podcast host Priyanka, and that is pretty much all you'll get to know of me from me for an introduction. I mean, come on people, take some effort. Google me, check out previous episodes of the last season of Morning Chai. Then there is Facebook, there is Twitter, there is Instagram, the whole colossal beauty of social networks, 6 degrees of separation and all. And despite all this, if I have to speak about myself, then what are these for, right? I mean, whatever happened to good old-fashioned stalking, huh? Anyhow, as we all know, today is International Women's Day, and I thought, what better day than today to make a comeback? Because I decided that this time Morning Chai and Ikigai is going to have its season revolve around one particular theme, one particular topic, and no points for guessing what the theme for this season is going to be. No? You haven't guessed it already? Well, then brace yourself for the grand reveal. The theme for... Let me tune up the suspense a bit. The theme for the second season, the suspense lingers. The theme for the second season of Morning Chai and Ikigai, suspenseful music, heartbeats rising, drum rolls. The theme for the second season of Morning Chai and Ikigai is, ta-da, women. Okay, forgive me, I'm not this irritating all the time. So let me explain to you how it's going to be. The pattern is this. In every episode of Morning Chai and Ikigai this season, I will, of course I'll try to keep it short and crisp, but I'll be discussing in around 5 points or so, different facets of a woman's personality. I will be discussing her life, maybe her interactions, her attitude, her behavior, topics like what it feels like to be a woman. And for the men who are listening to my podcast, topics like what it is to try and understand a woman, if that's even possible. Topics like what we women love, what we women hate, what women want. What women want. So basically things that make us tick. You get the drift, don't you? And today, on this special occasion of International Women's Day, I have a special opening day surprise for you all. I am going to be reading 5 all-encompassing micro tales, if I can call them that I have been writing especially for today's occasion. Now, actually, they are more of fairy tales. And if you're a woman and if you're living in India and if you're listening to me right now, I think you may have guessed where this is going. But if you haven't guessed by now, then no worries, you'll catch on soon enough. Anyway, without further ado sounds like a very formal feel to a casual conversation. So let's just skip without further ado and go to without wasting too much time. So without wasting too much time, here are 5 contemporary fairy tales for the women of today. Story 1. Once upon a time, there lived a young woman who, after years of hard work and perseverance, had finally climbed her way up the corporate ladder. Every day, she would now return home feeling drained after a heavy day's work and think to herself, am I really happy? Soon enough, this niggling thought became so overbearing that she took the matter up with her therapist, who attributed it to stress and advised her to take up a hobby. That night, the woman stayed awake thinking what she'd be good at. Reading? Nah, it took too long to finish a book. Her job did not allow her that kind of time. Singing? No way, she had zero confidence in her voice. Cooking? By the time she reached home, she was too tired and energy depleted for a microwave meal, leave alone cooking. Art? Poetry? She couldn't recall the last time she had picked a paintbrush. Her ambition and career had never allowed her to develop a penchant for these. The woman paused, as if hit by an epiphany. What had all these years of working so hard got her? In her relentless pursuit of the ephemeral, had she missed out on giving the real a chance? Avoided the finer things in life? She couldn't recall when she had last visited her mother or spent time at the beach. She had forgotten what the sea sounded like. Of course, her job provided her the wherewithal to own a plush 3 BHK apartment in the priciest part of town, a loaded purse, everything that money could buy. But it had also robbed her of the very comfort she needed the most, of food for the soul, respite for the aching heart. That was 6 months ago. Today, she lives in a small cottage along the seaside, the interiors of which she has done up herself. She heads a small creative startup that allows her to work from home, leaving her with ample time for a relaxed cup of evening chai, an interesting book, a great piece of art, poetry, music, meetups with family and friends, everything and everyone that made her fall in love with life, with herself once again. And although she may not always be able to afford the luxury her previous job offered, she knows quitting it was the best decision of her life. She is now listening to her heart, and that is how she will live happily ever after. Story 2. Once upon a time, there was a girl who had seen enough of love and relationships crumbling around her to never want to marry. But contrary to popular occurrences, nobody bothered her with unsolicited alliances or date fix-ups. There were no awkward questions from extended family at social gatherings. Her parents did not give her grief about it every chance they got. And even when she decided to adopt 5 stray kittens on her 30th birthday, they pretended not to know what is coming. Her friends did not gossip about her life choices. And society, well, it just let her be. And just like that, between lighting candles on birthday cakes that she made her loved ones eat and planning crazy trips around the world, she lived happily ever after. Story 3. Once upon a time, on a cold and lonely highway, a young woman dressed in a short skirt and tank top stood cursing her luck, leaning against her broken down car. A van playing loud rock music stopped by. In it were 3 boys who had been returning from a late night party. Seeing the woman stranded, they pulled over immediately. The boy sitting behind looked her up and down and asked her to get in. Once in the car, he noticed she was shivering from the cold. He offered her his jacket, which she readily accepted. The music was then turned down, and the rest of the journey continued in silence. When they reached her doorstep, the girl's mother invited the boys in for a cup of tea. The year was 2039, and India was safe for women of all ages to wear whatever they wanted, stay out as long as they liked. Men had learned the meaning of equal rights, and that is how both the sexes lived in harmony and happily ever after. Story 4. Once upon a time, there loved a gay couple who wanted to spend the rest of their lives with one another in wedlock. And so they did. No questions asked, no eyebrows raised, no judge raising an objection or calling it unnatural. They had their close-knit dream wedding graced by the company of family and friends. The duo, dressed in rainbow saris and elegant bridal jewelry, wanted their best friend Frodo to officiate the wedding. The German Terrier was only too happy to oblige. And right there, cheered by family, friends and everyone they held dear, they took their vows and sealed their 6-year-old courtship with a kiss. A promise to love and to hold each other in good times and bad times, in sickness and in health, until death do them apart. And so they lived, happily ever after. Story 5. Once upon a time, women were celebrated everywhere, in all the homes, in all the countries, in all the world. They could dress up without having to worry about the uninvited male gaze. They could stay out late at night. They could laugh aloud without being labeled a flirt. And they could eat chocolate cake without the fear of increasing their waistline. The men in their lives recognized and acknowledged their efforts and gave them the respect they rightfully deserved, at home, at the workplace, and beyond. Women's liberation was no longer a myth. Women did not have to doll up anymore. They now flaunted their stretch marks like war scars, proudly, without embarrassment, and did not have to conceal their cellulite. The freedom of not having to look a particular way, dress a particular way, act a particular way, took a huge load off their minds, turning them into healthy, beautiful, glowing versions of themselves. Not just on International Women's Day, but every single day of the year. And that was how everyone lived happily ever after. We come to the end of this episode of Morning Chai and Ikigai. So, what did you think of these contemporary tales? Did you find the scenarios incredulous, impossible, too good to be true? Well, I wouldn't blame you. In a country like ours where a woman is raped every 15 minutes, these stories seem as unbelievable as the fairy tales we read during our childhood. But just like those fairy tales, these were written to bring us hope. Hope of a different tomorrow, hope of a better tomorrow. I hope I was able to do justice. In the next episode, we'll talk of 5 scenarios every woman faces in her lifetime. So don't forget to tune in on Sunday and be part of this special homage on Morning Chai and Ikigai. Until then, this is your host Priyanka signing out. Bye-bye. This second series of Morning Chai and Ikigai is a weekly series. That means fresh episodes will be updated only on Sunday. Do subscribe if you haven't already, and if you're following me on YouTube, then don't forget to click the bell icon to get notified of new content. If you want to reach out to me outside the pod, I am on Twitter and Instagram, and my handle is Dr. Priyanka Naik. That is Dr. Priyanka Naik. I'm also there on Facebook, and my YouTube channel is Dr. Priyanka Naik again. So do subscribe, rate and leave me a comment.